Welcome to True Print for Life. I'm your host, Christina Vera.
And I'm your co-host, Maylin, Sambois.
Welcome back. This has been a 3-part series surrounded by, which by now you should or should, maybe you don't know. But Maylin and I were super excited to announce that we have co-authored a book called The Journey from Who You Are to Who You're Meant to Be, now on Amazon. So you can get a hardback, paperback, and a Kindle version. And we've been talking about just the inspiration behind the book, the themes, some of our favorite chapters we've shared so far. And certainly if you have already gotten the book and have been reading it, we would love to hear kind of your thoughts and feedback. And if you want to be on a future episode, so one of the things that I want to make sure that I highlight before we wrap for today's episode is if you have read the book and you want to come on the podcast to talk about your favorite parts of the book and your biggest aha or takeaways, we would love to have you. So feel free to email us at info@trueprintforlife.com or visit our website, www.trueprintforlife.com, and leave us a note there, or even on Instagram, social media, TikTok, wherever you're hearing this from. Feel free to drop us a line. Let us know what parts you like in so far, and if you want to join us on a future episode to talk about it. So as we have been talking about some of our favorite chapters, I think thinking, we've talked about our favorite, but I think also what chapter was the hardest to write is not something we've quite yet discussed. And I think, it was all hard, but, certainly as Maylin mentioned in some of the previous episodes, like different chapters, I think, pulled out different memories or different reflection points for us. And it was so interesting as we started to think about, some things that we've gone through and we've been able to get through. And I think really, being able to spend some time thinking through each chapter and the intentionality behind each chapter. And I think one of the questions that, kind of resonated was there a chapter that either that you felt, Maylin, was maybe hardest for you to write? And if so, why?
I think a few of them were hard.
I know, right? Everything. Like all of it.
I feel like every chapter had something deeply personal.
Yeah.
If you really have to get down to it, that it took courage to share. Right, because I don't share a lot of my personal things with the world. Some people, probably prior to the podcast this year, they know I even have a son because I was kind of private with that. But if you were listening to our podcast, you know. So, I feel like one of the chapters that wasn't like, I don't know if it was difficult, but it was a realization for me, a big one, was chapter 4. Can your no mean no? And that was on page 49. That was a come to Jesus kind of chapter, because can your no means no. Coming from a policing personality, right? Like I would call myself a heel policing personality. Growing up in a household where I wanted to create peace or maintain peace, and I thought that by me making sure that everybody was good, I was doing that. And what I learned at a very young age was that I had to put away my desires and anything that I wanted. Mm-hmm. I stopped thinking about what I wanted and kind of like, what does everybody need? So there's peace in my house. Mm-hmm. There's not chaos in my house. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't really thought about that way until I was writing the book.
Wow.
And that, when on page 55, when I start talking about and you see the butterfly, I was like, that is... Because in reality, when you write a book, if you're writing about yourself, it's deep reflection that goes on that. It's going to your old journals and grabbing things and sharing things. And I chose to be very open and honest in this book because it doesn't help anyone if I don't share what I have, overcome or what I have done. Hi, everybody, live. But, it really, it shocked me in certain times, certain places when I was writing. I had to take a pause because the emotions that were coming up were very raw, you know? And I'm like, oh, that is why I didn't feel like I belong in certain places. And it's so emotional, not even thinking about it. That's where that thought or feeling came from. That is why when I hold friendships, I hold them so dear.
Yeah.
And maybe I cling to you so much. Is because it's rare to find, for me, it was rare to find that truth connection and someone that you could trust and open your heart. Because in the past, when I have opened my heart, whether it be for a friendship or a love relationship, I have been betrayed. I have been hurt. I have been, you know, I had given my all and then it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
You know, not that I wasn't given enough. The age was just, it would never be enough for that person. And I had learned through our friendship, through our thing, that what a friendship really looks like really what it is and how it should make you feel. And I feel like when I was writing a lot of this, it was a reflection of why I have acted or how I have made certain decisions in my life. They went back to those early shaping of my mindset, those early framing of how I saw the world. So in that chapter when I wrote, you know, for so long, I said yes to everything, not because I had the time or the energy, but because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I thought my no would hurt people. It will appear selfish or make me less lovable. I got so used to showing up for everybody else that I ignored my own needs. I remember one day scrolling through Facebook and realizing that I had literally attended 10 different events in one day. 10. That moment shocked me. I couldn't believe how much I was running on empty just to keep up with an identity I thought I had to uphold. As time passed and my responsibilities grew, the impact started to show in my health, my peace, and my ability to be fully present. I slowly started making changes. I began RSVPing maybe or interested instead of automatically saying yes. If I truly couldn't attend, I would support by donating, getting the product, or sending love from afar. That shift gave me the necessary space to rest, to heal, and to face parts of myself I had long avoided. I had to confront the story I have been telling myself. In order to be loved, I had to be everything to everyone. Letting go of that belief was hard, but replacing it with truth was freeing. Now I remind myself, those who truly love me will understand when I show up from a place of joy, not guilt. Saying yes with intention has made my life richer, more peaceful, and far more aligned with the woman I am becoming.
That was good. I love that. I don't even know what to say.
And we learned so much from each other, like reading our things. I was like, dang, you went through that. I was in your life, but you know, life was happening. And I'm like, man, like that, right?
That's how I felt when I just heard you. Like, you could read it, but then hearing you read it, it's a little bit different of an experience. So we got to definitely do that Audible, Dalton. I was like,
sound engineer.
I was sitting here like, I don't even know her, but I know her, you know. But no, it's so real. And I really appreciate, you know, just how real and authentic you were. And it's funny because now that you say it and you say it in that way, I'm almost watching these different seasons of your life because I've known you 15 years.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, wait, no, you're right. I remember when you was so just kind of like seeing it in that way. I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think that will resonate with so many of us because I think too, you know, you don't really realize all of the things that you're doing, really trying to please other people. And then you're hurting yourself in the process. Yeah. And, you know, it's just when you finally come to a space of being like, I don't have to, or, you know, it's no longer worth it, or this relationship is no longer worth it. Or, you know, as you indicated earlier, like what we have was never going to be enough, whether it was the relationship, friendships. I literally just had that kind of thought the other day. I was like, you know, some of these people I've been, you know, hanging out. Well, not even hanging because I don't really hang out with nobody, but it's just like hanging on to certain things for so many years. It's just like, we're not really friends. I think we've converted into like Facebook associates, TikTok associates. And, being at peace with that, because realizing that you're like, oh, you're not as much of a priority in certain people's lives that you thought. Because, like you said, when you're a good friend and you're like, oh, I'll pull up. What do you need me to do? You're running around like a loca doing 20,000 things. And then you see that they went out of town together. There was an event or a dinner. And you're just like, well, damn, I didn't get it.
I'm like, let me look at my text. What's my favorite? Let me look at my text.
Did I miss it? Because I know I get a lot of messages. Maybe I overlooked it. And then you're just like, no, you're a B-roll friend now. And you know what B-roll is? B-roll is like that extra footage.
Yeah, tell me the B-roll.
So B-roll, for people who are in media, you capture like random videos or clips to fill in for like the main purpose of the content. So I feel like certain people were just hitting me up as a fill-in. I wasn't part of either the original plan, or they were like, oh, I should probably invite her. And it's like, you ain't never got to feel like you have to invite me,
right.
First and foremost. But I start picking up on certain dynamics and I'm like, I think I'm a B-roll friend. Because I would see stuff online and I was like, wow. So to your point, I was just, listening to you, and it's just like, yeah, I remember that season, and it really kind of, so the question, just thinking about like what was the hardest chapter to write. And I think your chapter is similar to my chapter. My chapter is chapter 6, the crossroads. And really, thinking about just all of the moments in life where things have been, heavy. And it's so, sometimes you just be like, oh, I just want to move forward. But it's like, at the end of the day, certain things do have permanent effects. There is trauma. There are things that, as hard as you work, you work so that it doesn't keep you stagnant. But that doesn't mean it goes away. It doesn't mean you forget. It doesn't mean that you're not now altered in some kind of way. And it was interesting because last night I went to this book club event, and I wasn't going to go, but I ended up going. And if I didn't take anything away from that night, we ended up somehow, the conversation spilled into talking about spouses, and like some were saying that their spouses don't want to go to certain things, or they do, whatever. And then it was just like, I started to reflect on, I'm married, and, I've known my husband over 20 years. And, we kind of have different ways as to how we engage when we're in business settings. And, and it's not that one way is better than the other. We're just different. Both very, we're partners at the end of the day. And one of the things that I uncovered last night in that conversation, I was explaining to them, like, I love to take him to things, but sometimes I'm a little nervous just because, like, he likes to drink at certain events. I don't really drink when I'm out publicly or if I'm working. And for me, it's just like, I want to be focused on what I'm there to do. And in his mind, he's like, well, this is social.
This is fun, right?
This is fun. And so I'm explaining this to this group of women who don't know me. And so this one lady, because then they were like, well, if he's not like belligerent and he's not doing this, then like, what's the problem? Like, like more like, you're tripping.
You are the trouble.
They
very much say you are the problem.
I'm the problem,
That's
right?
What I heard that.
And so
why don't you call me? I can pull up.
Right. And so then I was like, and it's because I'm like, because they were like, well, is it because he's this? And I was like, no, like people love him. They, like he's the life of the party. Like he could easily be the life of the party. He's funny, he's educated, he's all the things. And so then this one lady said that it was her question and it really tied to chapter 6 of the Crossroads. She said, can I ask you a question? And I was like, yeah. And she says, did this behavior come as a result of something that cost you something? And I said, well, what do you mean? She was like, are you like this because of something that has happened to you? Is there something about being in social settings or the alcohol or the not being in control? Did something happen that cost you something that now this is where you feel like this is how you have to be? And when she said that, I just kind of like instantly had a flashback of a season that I hadn't thought about in over 20 years. But she was right. I had been with some coworkers out at a social setting, and people had been drinking. It was a lot of alcohol. And one of the girls that I worked with, she needed a ride home because she had drank way too much. And I was just like, all right, I'll take you home. Like, I'm not going to, like, not let you, I'm not going to leave you. Because back then, Uber and all that wasn't really popping.
Absolutely not.
Right, because I would have got her an Uber. Because we were cool, but we weren't, so whatever. That's not the point. So I put her in my car, and, mind you, it's a corporate event. Like I said, they paid for everything, so it was an abundance of things.
It was an open bar.
Open bar, oh. And I put her in my car, and within a minute of pulling out of the parking lot, I get pulled over by the police. And it was this whole, she's hanging out the window, throwing up. And, and I had a couple of drinks myself, but I wasn't on the level that she was on. I was totally fine to drive. And because I didn't even really like alcohol back then, but I was there. So I was trying to be like, trying to go with the flow. And then ultimately, she starts throwing up out of my window as I'm driving. And the police,
of course,
happen to be on that corner, and they see this. And I get pulled over.
For doing a good deed.
And so when she asked me, has this cost you something? That situation back when I was 21 popped up immediately. Mm-hmm. And I had never really sat with that in that way. It's like, damn, because it did. I had so many legal issues that I had to deal with after that. And then I stopped being even friends with that girl after that, because I felt like your whole behavior now impacted me. If she got to go home, she didn't have to deal with none of that. So it was just like years of having to go to court, having to fight all these things, fines, because I also had a police officer that just was very just like disrespectful.
And at that time.
And I wasn't healed back then.
At that time, I can imagine.
So I'm trying to explain to him, and he don't want to hear it. And so I was...
You went Tina on him.
Yes, and so I wasn't healed then, guys.
Right.
So I made it worse.
You didn't have the tools.
I didn't have the tools. I made it worse. But she says all this, and it takes me into chapter 6. And it's just talking about the moments in life where everything feels uncertain, heavy, or out of our control. And really, having to work so hard to really understand that a single bad day does not have to define our entire lives. And so when she asked me that, in reflection to the question surrounding my husband, I was like, I think in that moment, it's not the drinking that bothers me. It's the fact that he's free. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I've been free for a long time. Like in those settings, like I feel like when you're in those settings, you're on. Like it's business. I'm not going to be back in that situation.
Right.
Where you're just like one drink, one part. Now with social media, and social media wasn't even really popping back then. And I think now I just don't feel like you can trust people to be in certain settings. And I think to hit the level that we have hit, I'm always thinking about like perception. And even though you should never really put that much energy and emphasis onto what other people think about you, I'm always like, well, the brand.
But we're a role model also.
Yeah.
And he don't have a social media, so he don't care. So let's be clear about this.
Right.
Like, we have all kinds of social media. We out here. You hardly see who he is unless you like on her pictures because she don't share that much.
I'm very private.
But he don't have no social media. So he's like, I can be free because nobody's out here recording me.
No. And he's and he's super, like I said, he's very successful, very educated, has just great. Like when she asked me that and we talked about it and I thought about it, I was like, I said, I'm like deflecting a situation that I went through, and now I'm holding him to that standard when he was like that. So it's just like, it was such a profound moment in thinking about, it did cost me something, which then ultimately has altered my mindset around business functions, any kind of alcohol, any kind of, like, I feel like you got to be buttoned up. I feel like you have to be on. And I don't really know why I feel like I always have to be on. I think that's something that I'm working through. Like I never really thought about it in that way. But I'm finding that it's like, do I really need to be? I mean, granted, I still have to be professional and I still have to set standards and boundaries for myself. But I have to really process why I feel like, I don't know, why I feel like I have to be so structured and rigid in certain ways. Because for me, I do have an expectation, and I expect people who are with me or work for me, or I hold myself to the same standard that I hold for other people. And I think sometimes it's not fair to hold people to such a standard where I don't even know really what my standard is based on.
Well, now you do.
Well, now I think I do
that.
for that particular situation. And it was interesting because in chapter 6, I talk about a very trying time that I do believe has permanently impacted me. And, I feel like it's impacted me in a way, both good and bad. And I'm still kind of working through what the bad is, but just a snippet of it that you'll find here in chapter 6 on page 78. And I quote, "I'm learning to reprogram my thinking and embrace the truth that one day doesn't define my whole life. But let's be honest, it's a lot easier said than done, especially when you're still in the thick of the storm. Sometimes it's not just a bad day you're enduring, but it's a bad season, a stretch of time where it feels like the ground beneath you is shifting and everything you once felt sure of is now uncertain. About a year ago, I walked through one of the hardest 6 months of my professional life. I was dealing with a deeply painful professional matter, one that became public. And by public, I mean every local news channel, newspaper, and social media platform shared the details. And may I add, the details were all mostly incorrect. It was everywhere. I couldn't escape it. My health took a hit. My stress levels were sky high. And every day, I found myself asking, why? Why me? As someone who's usually strong, confident, and ready to stand up and fight when necessary, I found myself at a loss. I didn't have the energy to defend myself. I didn't have the will. I didn't have the fight. Everything I had worked so hard to build felt like it was crumbling, even though I knew in my heart that I had done nothing wrong. The weight of my title and position meant I had to be the face of the storm, the spokesperson, the strong one, the one inside. I felt completely alone. I began to doubt whether I was even the right person for the job. On top of that, my physical health was unraveling. I lost a significant amount of weight, which I wasn't really mad about that.
Right.
My blood pressure spiked, relationships were strained, and just when I thought I couldn't take anything else, I discovered a lump in my left breast. Surgery followed. Doctor's appointments filled with my calendar. My life as I had known had shifted dramatically. And that was such a dark time. I can't sugarcoat it. But the grace of God and the unwavering love of my family and a few close friends who never let go, even when I could barely hold on myself, I started to rebuild. Day by day, thought by thought, prayer by prayer, I began to remind myself of who I was and whose I was. I had to speak life back into myself. The enemy was after my mind and my spirit. And at one point, I almost gave it to him. Almost. In earlier chapters, we've talked about the power of relationships, but until you hit your version of rock bottom, you don't really truly understand just how vital your version of rock bottom. You don't truly understand how vital those relationships are. During that storm, I didn't hear from many people. There were no check-ins, no words of encouragement. In fact, some of the only messages I received were rooted in gossip and messiness. And that silence and those absences spoke volumes. It clarified everything. It showed me who was really in my corner and who only came around when the sun was shining. That season also taught me invaluable lessons about business, leadership, and human nature. One of the biggest takeaways: when people show you who they are, believe them. Don't make excuses. Don't try to rewrite the narrative. Believe them, and then move accordingly. you can read the rest of the reflection. But
I was waiting for the rest. I was like, yes, girl, it's right here. I'm like,
it's right
the
here.
rest is right here.
But it was just such a profound season and moment, and there's still implications that I now will take with me because of that. But I think hearing that woman ask me that question last night put like a pin in the fact that I need to really think through with this particular season that I'm reflecting on in the book. I want to make sure that I don't move forward from that season making decisions or being a certain type of way because of that, not realizing like, oh, damn, that's why I don't, maybe I won't run for office again, and
Maybe she will.
But I think but I don't want to make that decision based off of that experience, right? So I think her asking me that and reflecting on that social piece of it blew my mind, and that's only been 24 hours ago. And then so now recognizing that I have a pattern, now I know I have a pattern, which I'm sure I had other patterns, but that specifically. So I need to really now evaluate all of the elements of myself in the kind of pockets to make sure that I'm not making decisions and making moves based on a crossroad. I know that was a lot.
No, when I first read it, I had tears. I said, I'm so sorry, what happened here? Just you say so many good things, powerful things. I don't think you need to go into this whole like let's evaluate every part of my life, because really is when you're making a decision,
right?
Figure out why you're making the choice that you're making. What is it based on, right? Like what story are you telling yourself, and going deep into that 7 level deep kind of thing.
Right.
I never heard that story. So, but it makes sense of why that was imprinted in you, and why you kind of want to control behaviors because you don't want to be in that situation again. And then there was no social media. Now, God forbid somebody gets a video of that, right? So I understand that completely. I don't think that you're wrong in trying to control certain things and standards. It's just what the way it is on you.
Yeah.
To trying to keep somebody, an adult, on tabs on certain things. You know what I mean? Like that's the only part that I think you have to figure out what is comfortable for you.
Right.
And then you and your partner figure out, okay, so that's what you're sharing. So now him knowing that, if you share that with him already.
I told him last night.
What did he say?
Like, he was actually very caught off guard. He was just like, he was like, well, what kind of group is this? It sounds like a therapy group. And I was like, well, the book theme was talking about divine intervention. And it was talking about mindset and decision-making. And so, and from there, it kind of spent off into how all these different people interpreted it. And they were talking about their spouses, and then it just prompted me to share my feeling about certain things.
Thank God.
And it was really profound. So that's exactly how it happened. And I had to tell him. And he was just like, he said to me, he was like, he's like, so you're the problem. He said, but he was joking. Because he had been drinking.
He's like, see, I'm free.
He was so, because I walked in and he's just like, hey, I was just like, this is like,
I just love how free he is.
I love it. And so I tell him this, and he was just like, he's like, so, he was like, but you have to understand, like, people love the way that I am in these social settings. And I was like, do they?
Does he love the way that he is in those social settings?
He does. And he says, because, his interpretation of it is that, he's like, yes, we all are, professionals, and we're executives, and we do all these things. He was like, but if you walk around just, like, stuffy all the time, and you can't just, like, breathe and just to, have a couple drinks and have a few laughs. He's like, for me, if I had to be like that all the time, he was like, that's not the type of life I want to live. And so he's just like, so I know for a fact that, when I get to do what I want to do, like, actually encourages other people to also breathe and to also kind of
to be free.
And so he was like, so next time you start tripping on me about this, he's like, I'm going to remind you of your trauma that you're putting on me. And I was like, no, that's valid. And so I did share it with him last night because it was so profound that I was like, I don't want to not tell him this, because I could have easily been like, I'm keeping that in my pocket.
Right.
But I think it has been an issue where we've gotten into it on different occasions about it. And now I have a better understanding as to, like, I mean, I still have a certain standard, but now at least I understand why.
But I think now that he knows this too, then he understands that now you're tripping.
Yeah.
Like this is caused by something that you experience. And it's a little bit different for him too. It's like, oh, she's just tripping out of nowhere. Oh no, this was something that happened to her. Like he has faced a big loss in his life, right?
Yeah.
He lost his dad. So he knows how that loss imprinted him.
Right.
And I think at a time maybe because he faced such a large loss that we thank God haven't had to face.
Yeah.
He lives lives a little bit different.
Right.
He's more of like, listen, any moment.
Yeah.
It could go for me.
Right.
So I'm going to enjoy life because the person I love the most left quickly with suffer, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like his mindset has also been imprinted by that trauma. How he's handling it and how he copes with it is a little bit different than how we do.
Yeah.
But I've been in social settings with you. We have done things together and we have a good time.
Yeah.
But there are certain things with certain people that you have a standard maybe with and that now you're realizing.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you need to go like 180, but I think being aware now,
right?
When those feelings are starting to bubble up and you're like, you want to like strangle him, you're like, hold on, what's wrong, right? Are we okay? Are we safe? You know, do we have a designated driver? Do I need to take an Uber and leave the car here? So we just chill,
right?
Like there's different tools that you have now, to deal with those feelings when they come up.
Absolutely, yes.
And to the part that you share, like I think this is one part that I want to share with people. Like you could have a best friend, like Christina and I are best friends, and we have been through life together. And at the time of your thing, I think like I was going through a lot of my thing with my own figuring out my life with a kid. And I didn't even know the things that you were experiencing. I heard some of it during a lunch meal our mothers had. I literally remember being at lunch and I heard something. I said, what'd you say? Who's going through that? And your mom was like, no, Christina. I said, what did you mean? And you know, because I don't watch social media.
I didn't want to bother you because you had
not 6 months, girl. 1 month, okay. That thing was not in a week.
It was like a year, actually, almost of my life.
When I heard that, I was shocked. You know, I was like, what do you mean? And who, you know, who's handling this? Like, what's happening?
Yeah. And
I felt bad. And I'm like, well, there's no time to feel bad. Like, what do we do? Like, what is supposed to do? I remember showing up at her board meetings. I was like, I'm going to pull up. I would be in the front seat. Like, I wish you would. I just wish you would to say something to my girl.
Right.
And then the energy. So I remember going with her mom. I said, we have to balance the energy. I believe in energy. I said, we're going to come in and we're going to balance the energy. And we're going to show that she has people. Somebody asked me, are you here for Christina? I said, yes. It's like, because I've never seen you here. I said, exactly. I didn't have a reason to be, you know, but I am here. And even the security guards were all over, like, what's going on? It's like, I told them, you have one job. I'm not supposed to protect everybody. You protect her. Like, I know you protect her. So it was that, and it was a pulling up. It was a finding the legal resources. I think because when you overwhelm and you have people that should be resources, sometimes are not.
Yeah.
But I remember being like, do we need a lawyer? Do we need to pull up? And finding, I don't know how we found it, but we found, we Googled and found really great lawyers.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation to give you some peace of mind and kind of how to handle it.
Yeah.
But for those of you that are facing things, and if you ever, God forbid, have to face something, like regardless of how busy the people that you love are, when those people really love you, like they will figure out, even if I had to come with a child, like you will figure it out, because I don't want to go through something so hard if I'm aware of it. Because sometimes things that I've been through, I wasn't even aware until I reflected of how difficult those parts were or how they affected me. I wasn't like, thinking I'm going through this by myself. I wasn't even thinking.
Yeah.
But when something is on national news that I don't watch, no.
Yeah.
Never again. Okay? Never again. And for you, those of you that are like this, tell the people that love you, because you're taking away from them the opportunity to be there for you, like you've been there for them. Like Christina has been with me through thick and thin, coming to my bed when I'm crying, when I have had big losses. Like she's been there with me. She's probably been one of the few people that sees me crying. How dare I not be there for you when you're going through a hard season?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm going through this transition in life with a kid. It's just what it is. But I'm always going to be there for you. I'm always going to, if I cannot personally like defend you, I will find somebody too. I'm like, girl, we'll pull the resources. We'll get you somebody to fight for you, because you never have to fight by yourself. Like this is why God put me in your life.
Yeah, very true. I appreciate that. No, she's not exaggerating. She was in parking lots. It's like tracking me. I'm like, what are you doing? Late meetings. I come out in the parking lot and I see her car. I'm like, what are you
I was waiting.
doing?
I was like, I want to know what's going on.
Yeah, she would be in the parking
eat?
lot. She pulled up at a graduate. Like, she was, I mean, no, and that's who you are. And I really appreciate that. And I should have told you sooner. And I think I was definitely like, oh, I'll figure it out. It'll blow over. And then it just didn't. And I was like, at that point, it was too much happening. And I was like, I don't have time to explain all the things, but yeah, I'm grateful, and definitely if you want to learn more, definitely get the book. The Crossroads Chapter 6 is what I'm speaking about specifically. But thank you for tuning in. Thank you for certainly continuing to be on this journey with us. If you're interested in getting the book, it is on Amazon. The Journey from Who You Are to Who You're Meant to Be, and it's on Kindle as well. And eventually we'll get it in some bookstores. But thank you, and we look forward to coming back to give you more updates. And if you're interested in being on the show, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, feel free to message us and let us know.
Like we always say,
it's bigger than you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We're excited, and we hope that you follow us on
Instagram, True Print for Life, YouTube channel, also True Print for Life. And make sure that you share, like, watch our videos. Make sure that you follow us on all streaming platforms.